I'm talking about finally stepping out of this pattern where you bend your standards every time someone else is uncomfortable, where you say yes when your whole body is screaming no, and where you nod along and then resent yourself later while you're doing the work you didn't actually agree to do. Hey friend, welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I'm your host, Nata Salvatore, business scaling and freedom first leadership coach, multi-business owner, and someone who has historically tried to hold way too many plates in the air at once. So today we're talking about something that sits right at the heart of claiming the CEO seat, setting the non-negotiables, standards that protect excellence. If you found yourself saying, I just have really high standards, and you're redoing somebody else's work at 11 p.m., this episode is for you. If you're ever open your calendar and thought, how am I booked when I'm supposed to be the CEO? This episode is also for you. And if you technically have help, but you still somehow feel like the walking safety net for your team and your clients, yeah, you're exactly who I'm thinking about when I record this. What I want you to do in this episode is really simple. I want to show you why non-negotiables matter so much if you want to shift from operator to owner. And I want to help you see where you might be defaulting to consensus or perfectionism in name of being nice or doing it right. And then I want to walk you through my return framework so you can actually install new standards in your business in a way your nervous system can actually handle. And then we're going to end with a very accidental COA with one boundary, one standard, and one decision rhythm that you can put into place this week. Nothing theoretical, things you can put on your calendar and in your contracts and feel in your body. I've created a little gift to go with this episode. It is called the CEO Identity Shift and is really going to help you understand and put into words what it means to become the leader into your business and step out of that operator position. These are my standards, and I'll tell you more about it at the end, and you can grab it from the show notes. So let's get into it. All right, why non-negotiables matter for claiming your CEO seat? Let's start here. Most of you listening to this do not have a strategy problem. You have a standards and boundaries problem. You know how to get people results. You spend years getting good at your craft. You've listened to the podcasts, you've done the courses, you invested in coaching, you've done it all right. And if I put you in front of a client, you're solid. You're not the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is that somewhere along the way, you've made everyone else's needs, expectations, and emergencies non-negotiable, and quietly made your own needs optional. And then you call it being a good service provider or being dependable or just having high standards. Non-negotiables, the way I see it, are just this. They are the lines that protect what matters most in your work, in your leadership, and in your life. They're not about becoming rigid or cold. They're about becoming clear. And when I talk about claiming the CEO seat, I'm not talking about turning into some robot CEO who never compromises and doesn't care about people. I'm talking about finally stepping out of this pattern where you bend your standards every time someone else is uncomfortable, where you say yes when your whole body is screaming no, and where you nod along and then resent yourself later while you're doing the work you didn't actually agree to do. So without non-negotiables, you end up in one of two modes. You either over-accommodate, you say yes because you don't want to disappoint anyone, or you over-control. You keep everything on your plate because no one else do it the right way. And both of those modes are exhausting. Neither of them is actually leadership. So as we talk, I want you to quietly hold this question in the back of your mind. What am I currently treating as optional that I actually want to be non-negotiable? It might be something about how you treat your time. It might be something about your client experience or how your team communicates. Just let that question sit there while we move on. Let's talk about this shift from operator to owner, because this is where non-negotiables really live. Most of us started as operators. We were the photographer and the editor, the coach and the funnel builder, the consultant and the admin and the bookkeeper and the one updating the website at midnight because it only takes a second. And at that stage, your main standard is, does this get done? That's it. Bare minimum survival energy. You're scrappy, you're figuring it out, it's okay. But the business grows. And as the real humans start depending on this thing, clients, a team, your family, that operator mode becomes a liability. And the way you got here starts to be the thing that is capping you. The operator voice in your head says, if you don't do it, it won't get done. It will be faster if I just fix it myself. My clients expect me personally for every tiny thing, so I can't step away. And it's very all or none thing. It's very guilt driven. The owner's voice says, my job is to protect the business and the people inside it, including me. My standards are clear enough that someone else can help withhold them. I'm willing to disappoint in the short term to protect excellence long term. And my time is not the cheapest resource available here. It is actually the most expensive. So where's the line? The way I define is the operator lives inside the task and the owner lives inside the standards and the decisions. An operator wakes up and asks things like, how am I going to get this all done today? And an owner wakes up and asks, what does done well look like and who should own it? Your non-negotiables sit very firmly in owner's territory. You don't need non-negotiables about things that truly do not matter. You need them in place to protect the quality of your work, the health of your team, your capacity, and the long-term vision of the business. And if you're listening and thinking, I know this, I want to operate that way, I just keep getting pulled back into operating mode, I want to walk you through a little self-check so you can see where you might be getting stuck. So here's 3 signs you're defaulting to consensus or perfectionism. I'm going to share 3 patterns I see over and over again with higher achieving, over responsible CEOs. You don't have to say anything out loud. Just notice which it feels a little too familiar inside. The first sign is that you crowdsource your own standards. This looks like asking 10 different people what they think before you make a decision. It looks like sending a message to your mastermind chat. Is this okay to say? And it looks like constantly checking, will people be mad if I do this? Or is this too much? You might even find yourself rewriting your boundaries based on whoever you talk to last. This is consensus mode. It is, I need everyone to agree before I trust myself. The problem with that is that your standards become blurry. Your team has no idea what is actually important to you because it keeps shifting. And you start treating your own clarity as something that can be voted on. The second sign is that you only feel safe with 110% certainty. You tell yourself you're just being thoughtful, but you're actually stuck in a loop of overthinking. You write an email and then you rewrite it 12 times instead of sending the clear, slightly imperfect version. You delayed setting standards with your own team because you want to figure everything out first. And you hold back on saying, this is the line until you've imagined and pre-managed every possible reaction. This is perfectionism disguised as care. It sounds noble. I just wanted to make sure I don't hurt anyone or mess this up. But underneath, it's fear of being seen as too much or too strict or too demanding. The cost is that implementation keeps getting pushed back. Your non-negotiables live in your head and never make it into the contracts or your systems or your calendars. And your nervous system stays hooked on the little dopamine hits of rescuing things in the last minute. That is a big trap. The third sign is that you apologize for having standards at all. You might recognize this in your language. You start boundary statements like, sorry, I know this might sound like a lot, but, or I hate to be that person, but, or maybe I'm just being picky, but, and you soften your tone so much that by the end of the sentence, you're basically giving people permission to ignore what you just said. You're leading with, I don't want you to think I'm difficult, instead of, this is what needs to be true for me to do my best work. This is consensus and perfectionism tag teaming. I want to be liked and I want to be flawless. So I will water this down to something no one could possibly object to. And then you're confused when nobody respects it. If one or all of these hit, you are in very good company, my friend. This is not a character flaw. It is how most high-capacity people actually learn to survive. Especially women, especially moms, especially people who grew up being praised for being easy and helpful and low maintenance. The good news is you can change it. And this is where the return framework comes in. Return is a framework I created to describe the arc people go through when they're shifting from over-responsibility and reactive leadership into what I call freedom-first leadership. It stands for recognized, engineer, trust, untangle, reinstate, and nourish. We could do a whole series on this framework alone, but today I want to apply it specifically to setting non-negotiables. So let's walk through each letter slowly. And I want to be thinking of one area that your business where your standards feel a little bit fuzzy or leaky right now. Maybe it's your availability, maybe is the scope creep with your clients, maybe is the way your team brings you every micro decision instead of owning their work. Keep that one area in mind. We're going to start with recognize. This is where you get brutally honest about the pattern. You ask yourself, where am I regularly betraying my own standards? Where do I say never again and then end up right back where the next Tuesday was? Where do I feel like little flares of resentment in my body are living? The heat in your chest where you think, I cannot believe I'm doing this again. That resentment is not a sign that you're ungrateful. It's a sign that a boundary has been crossed or a standard has been abandoned, usually by you, not even by another person. So recognizing might sound like, I keep getting clients text me on weekends and then I get mad at myself for responding. I keep redoing my designer's work instead of coaching them on the standards that I really want. Or I keep saying yes to last minute requests that blow up my entire week. Recognition is not a shame exercise. I want you to understand that. It's your stepping outside yourself for a second and saying, okay, this is a pattern. I am not bad. I am not broken. It's just what it's happening. Once you've seen it, you move into engineer. Engineer is where you actually define the standards you want instead of just walking around with vague feelings of, I want things to be better. A great question here is, what does excellent look like in this area? In clear, observable terms, not just, I want this to feel good, but what would someone be able to see or measure that tells us you're honoring this? So if this area is client communication, for example, engineer might sound like, our standard is that we respond to client messages within one business day, Monday through Thursday, not in 10 minutes, not at 10:30 p.m. If it's your time, it might be, my standard is that I don't take calls on Fridays. That's my CEO day or my life day. If it's delegation, it might be, if I touch a recurring task more than twice, it either needs a process or it needs an owner. When you engineer your standards, you are choosing 2 or 3 that matter deeply and getting very specific. Not everything has to become a non-negotiable. Pick the few that would significantly change how your week feels if they were actually upheld. Once you know what you want, we move into trust. And that's the part where people want to jump over. They define a standard and immediately want to see it fully implemented with zero discomfort. But anytime you raise your standards, your nervous system is going to have something to say. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel a little bit like you're being mean, especially if you're used to stretching yourself to everyone. Trust in this context has two layers. There's trust in yourself. I can hold this line without over-explaining or trying to manage everybody's feelings. And trust in your business. We can survive some short-term discomfort to protect long-term excellence. This is where your body might freak out for a minute. You don't reply to a client on a Saturday, and you feel that urge to grab your phone. You tell a team member, no, we're not doing same-day meetings anymore. And you feel that pull the back pedal. Trust isn't built for thinking about it. It's built for reps. You hold the line once, and everyone survives. You survive, and your system starts to realize, oh, we're actually safe here. This episode is brought to you by my one-on-one Freedom First Leadership Coaching. This is for founders who are still the glue in their company and want to become the calm, precise CEO. Together, we will redesign your role, install clean decision rights, and delegate outcomes with a clear definition of done. You'll leave with a weekly operating cadence, a 90-day plan, and the confidence to scale without being on call to everything. If you want high standards at a human pace, apply now at accidentalceo.co/coaching. That's accidentalceo.co/coaching. After trust, we move to untangle. Untangle is where you get curious about what is underneath all this resistance. Why is this one boundary or standard so hard for you to hold? And you can ask yourself things like, when I imagine reinforcing this, what story comes up about who that makes me? Maybe it is if I hold this boundary, I'm selfish. Or if I say no, I'll be abandoned. Or if my team is uncomfortable, I'm a bad boss. You can ask, whose voice is that? Sometimes it's a parent who called you demanding when you asked for what you needed. Sometimes it's a former boss who punished people for setting limits. Sometimes it's an industry culture, that weird idea that the only good entrepreneurs are the ones who answer DMs at midnight and brag about never taking a break. Untangling is about realizing the intensity of my reaction to this standard is not just about this email or this meeting. It's bumping up against years of conditioning. Once you see that, you start to separate. This is my current reality, and this is what an old story that my nervous system will still be running in. That separation gives you room to choose. Then we get to reinstate. This is an action step. Reinstate is where you take the standard out of your head and weave it into how you actually operate. Sometimes that looks like updating your contracts or your workflows, or it looks like having a direct conversation with a client or a team member. Hey, here's a change I'm making, and here's what you can expect going forward. It's not just saying to yourself, I really need to stop doing this and hoping for the best. It's, okay, if my standard is that I don't take calls on Friday, I'm literally going into my scheduling tool and taking Fridays off the table. I'm telling my clients, here are my call days, and I'm telling my team to not book anything else on a Friday. When a client texts you on a Saturday, reinstating looks like not responding until Monday. Or responding with, I got this, I'll get back to you on Monday during business hours. Instead of getting dragged into a weekend back and forth. It's walking your talk in micro moments. And then the last step is nourish. This is a step where high achievers love to skip. Nourish is asking, who do I need to be and how do I need to be supported to keep holding these standards? You cannot lead with high standards in human pace from an empty tank. If you're constantly sleep deprived, never moving your body, never having any space to think, of course it's going to be easier to cave in and not hold that line. And of course you're going to default to old patterns. You're tired. Nourish might look like building a weekly CEO hour where you check in with yourself and your business instead of just reacting. It might look like getting on your own support, coaching, therapy, a peer group, where you can vet and process and be reminded you're not crazy for wanting something different. It might simply look like rest, actual rest, not scrolling your phone in the parking lot. So when you nourish yourself, you increase your capacity to live inside the standards you say that you want. That's the return applied to non-negotiables. Recognize the pattern, engineer the standards, trust yourself through the discomfort, untangle the old stories, reinstate the new way of life, and nourish yourself so you can keep doing it. All right, now I want to make this really practical. I know you don't live in a big concept land, so I want to give you one very grounded assignment for this episode. This week, I want you to decide one boundary, one standard, and one decision cadence. Just one of each. Not 27 new rules or brand new color-coded Asana boards. One, and one. Let's start with one boundary. Think about the place where your energy leaks the most right now. The thing you're complaining about to your partner or your business bestie, the thing you find yourself saying, if I could just stop this, it would feel so much better. Maybe it's people scheduling over your focus time. Maybe it's clients expecting instant responses. Or maybe it's your team dropping the same day emergencies in you because they know you always say yes. And then ask yourself, what is one clear boundary I'm ready to set around this? Maybe something like, I don't take calls on Friday, like we talked earlier. Or clients contact us through this one channel, not 10 different places. Or last minute rushes are only available if they're paid for accordingly. Write it down. Literally write the sentence. That's your one boundary. Then choose one standard. This is about quality and consistency. Where in your business are you the most frustrated with how things are doing right now? Maybe it's that client communication feels chaotic, or that the projects don't have a clear owner. Maybe it's that you're constantly stepping in to fix deliverables instead of reviewing and approving. So ask yourself, if I could only define one minimum standard here, what would it be? Something like every client gets a recap email within 24 hours of a call, or every project has one clear owner, or edits are returned within X business days, not whenever we remember. Again, write it down. From now on, this is the standard we uphold, not from a place of punishment, from a place of protecting excellence. And finally, pick one decision cadence. Decision cadence is just a fancy way of saying when and where the decisions will happen in the business. Right now, a lot of your decisions are probably happening in the DMs, random voice notes, in your kitchen while you're making dinner. They're scattered, and that keeps you constantly reactive. So ask yourself, where would it actually make sense to batch decisions? Maybe there's a weekly CEO hour or a Monday where you look at your business instead of just living inside of it. Maybe it is a standing call with your OBM or your right-handed person where you clear bottlenecks. Maybe it's a monthly review where you decide what's staying, what's changing, and what's getting retired. I love doing my decision-making on a Monday and a Friday. Those are the 2 days where either my head is clear and I have the time to really think and make the decisions, or I've seen everything that's happened in the week and I have some ideas of what things should look like moving forward. So pick one rhythm, put it in your calendar, treat it like an appointment with your most important client, your business. And if you do just one of these 3 things, one boundary, one standard, one decision, you can actually hold them for a month, your business will start to feel different. Not because you added more to your plate, because you finally stopped negotiating with what matters. And before we wrap, I want to look back at something that I mentioned in the beginning, this idea of your CEO identity. One of the tools that my clients love is the CEO identity shift. It's basically a living document that helps you identify where you're getting stuck in the transition from operator into CEO and lets you start thinking about how to build a plan to move forward. Because it's one thing to have it all of this in your head, and it's another thing to see it on paper and go, this is the person I'm choosing to be. I created this document and you're going to find it on the show notes for you. And you can use it as a tool for yourself. You can use it to journal and really reflect through it. Take it through the return framework. Use that as a reference point to go back and make sure that you're putting the effort to transition, because that identity shift is what keeps people stuck. All right, let's bring this home. If you are remembering nothing else from this episode, remember this. You cannot fix over responsibility with another strategy. You fix by changing what you allow, what you expect, and what you believe about your role. So I want to leave you with one action, one belief, and one standard to carry into your week. The action is what we already talked about. You're going to choose one boundary, one standard, and one decision cadence for the next month. Not forever, just for the next month. Write them down and tell somebody you trust. Hey, this is what I'm practicing. The belief I want you to try on this is my standards don't make me difficult. They make my excellence sustainable. You're not a problem because you care. You're not a problem because you need rest. You're not a problem because you don't want to answer messages at 11 p.m. You're a leader protecting the conditions that make your best work possible. And the standards I want you to hold with yourself is, I do not betray myself to keep everyone else comfortable. That doesn't mean you never compromise. It doesn't mean you never stretch. It means you stop pretending you're okay when you're actually resentful and exhausted. You're not here to be the human Band-Aid in a broken system. You're here to build something that serves your clients, your teams, and you. That's what I'm claiming the CEO seat is really about. If this episode landed for you, I would love to hear that non-negotiable you're setting. Come hang with me on Instagram at accidentalceo.co. Send me a DM and tell me, okay, Nata, here is my boundary I'm practicing. Use me as your sounding board and I will cheer you on. And don't forget to grab your CEO identity shift and the show notes so you can actually write it down, the leader you're becoming, and the standards that will protect your excellence. Thanks for listening. Thanks for doing the work with me, and we'll talk to you the next episode. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.